Namaskar. This is David Hawthorne at astroview.com. Today is the 12th of June, 2022. The following is the update Vedic astrology reading for Donald Trump. This is based on the 14th of June, 1946, 10:54 a.m. in Jamaica, New York. Now, I've done his reading in the past. You can watch that on YouTube for the basics. Well, in this video, I want to focus on the loss of the 2020 election, the current situation, and the coming 2024 election. Now, I am using the systems approach to Vedic astrology as a paradigm for reading horoscopes. This is now being used by more than 800 Vedic astrologers worldwide because it is scientific, accurate, relevant, practical, contemporary, and replicable. If you see any of our astrologers practicing systems approach, you will get pretty much the same reading because these are not based on personal preference, intuition, or a hodgepodge of techniques. Now, just a brief overview of the chart for Donald Trump as a reminder that he has the Simha Lagna. In other words, if you looked east on the horizon at the time of his birth, the fifth sign of the zodiac was ascending or rising at 6 degrees, 51 minutes of Leo. So Simha Lagna. Fire sign and a fixed sign. Fire sign persons are very creative, very independent. They love to start projects. Fixed sign persons know how to focus on what they need to accomplish in life, and they can amass wealth and status and family life. Of the 12 rising signs from Aries around through to Pisces, only Leo is ruled by the royal sun, and sun is the king of the planetary cabinet. So Leos are very independent. They're not subordinate to others. They take their own decisions. We see that Mars is in the first house. This brings a lot of courage, makes him very direct and very much involved with executive organizing skills. Gives him a bit of a military perspective on life. I think he went to military prep school, actually. In the second house, he has the sixth sign Virgo, and this is Guru, Jupiter in the second house. So this will give some wealth and status through education. He went to a prestigious university. Third house, seventh sign Libra. Fourth house, eighth sign Scorpio. Chandra and Ketu in Scorpio. Moon at 28 degrees, and Ketu, the southern node of the moon, at 27 degrees. Notice that moon is directly opposite the sun, almost to the exact same degree. So he's born during a full moon. And also notice that Rahu and Ketu, the north and south nodes of the moon, are also close to the moon and close to the sun. So he's actually born during a total lunar eclipse. In my opinion, this can disturb the heart and soul. If there is plenty of space between these, say 10 degrees, 15, 20 degrees, no problem. But when planets are within 5 degrees of each other, they have an impact that's relatively serious if they are involving a functional malefic planet, and Rahu and Ketu are functional malefic planets for every horoscope. They need to be honored, or what we call propitiate or pacified, so they don't cause adverse effects in life. It really doesn't matter what we find in a chart, it matters whether we fix what we find in a chart. These two are causing serious afflictions to Sun and Moon. Moon is also in its debilitation sign. Usually that person has some challenges emotionally connecting with others. They may have difficulties even with being able to comprehend and emotionally connect with others. Other people do not know where they are. Sometimes they intimidate other people without even meaning to. Fifth house, 9th sign Sagittarius. So Jupiter rules education, and it's in the house of wealth and status and family life. It can give educated children as well. 6th house, 10th sign Capricorn. 7th house, 11th sign Aquarius. 8th house, 12th sign Pisces. 9th house, 1st sign Aries. 10th house, 2nd sign Taurus. So Surya and Rahu in Vrishab, Sun and the northern node of the moon, Rahu, in the 10th house of career, karma, the field of action. Well, Sun rules the chart. Could have gone to any of these 12 houses. It's gone into the 12th house of professional life, the field of action. It is with Rahu. The positive side of Rahu is ambition, charisma, fame, fortune, magnetic personality. So this gives leadership. Sun is the king in the house of professional life. Makes him president. But I do think Rahu and Ketu on Sun and Moon are going to be a big challenge for him with his heart, cardiovascular system, stomach, digestion, blood, bones, immune system. Sun and Moon are both connected with the heart. So at some point, in my opinion, he's going to have serious heart issue. Most likely between May 2027 and July 2029, because he'll run the Sun subperiod operating planet and then the Moon subperiod. So that's a strong 2-year period where he will have some challenges with his heart. '11th house, 3rd sign Gemini, Matun. Mercury in its own sign in Gemini is considered quite good. Usually when the 2nd house ruler is in the 11th house, the person has money from their family. And he gained a lot through his father. This also gives income connected with business, brokering, buying, selling, trading, communications, technology, intellectual property. Mercury's quite good in Gemini in this chart. An air sign, makes him very brilliant. He can learn things without opening a book. But Mercury is the mind, and Gemini is the twins. Duality. One of these twins is going to be very social, gregarious, witty, eager to please, generous, kind, considerate. The other twin, not so much. The other twin might be a bit on the stubborn side, lazy, obstinate, argumentative. '12th house, 4th sign Cancer, Shukra and Shani in Kark, Venus at 2 degrees, Saturn at 0 degrees. 12th house is not a favorable house. It's connected with losses, expenses, separation, depression, hospitalization, imprisonment, and end of life. Positive side, 12th house is Mokshasthana, the house of spiritual advancement and enlightenment. It's also connected with foreign lands. Venus rules the 3rd house of self-initiative, self-efforts, and entrepreneurial activities, and it's in the house of losses and expenses. He has had a number of bankruptcies in his businesses. Money goes out the door, and he tries to run his own self-efforts, his own self-initiatives. And Saturn rules the 7th house of marriage, partnerships, relationships, joint ventures. It's in the house of losses, expenses, and separations. It's on his 3rd marriage. Doesn't seem to do well in partnerships. He's had trouble with women, losses and expenses on account of women. He's had to pay women off to keep them quiet about certain things. Now, under systems approach for the Leo rising sign, there are 6 planets that will never cause harm. These include Sun, ruling the chart, Mars will never cause harm. It rules the 9th house of father. The ruler of the 9th house of father is in the 1st house of self. It brings close connection with his father, ruled by the Sun in the house of professional life. His father was a very successful businessman. This is the house of Dharma. It connects his Dharma with his father. Mercury will never cause harm. It rules the house of wealth, status, speech, and continuation of family life. Jupiter will never cause harm. It rules the house of children, and education, and investments. Venus will never cause harm. It rules the house of self-initiative, self-efforts, entrepreneurial activities. Saturn will never cause harm. It rules the house of relationships, partnerships, joint ventures, and marriage. But if any of those planets are weak, afflicted, debilitated, or badly placed, they lack the power to protect and promote their own significations. For Leo, Chandra, ruling the 12th house of Dustan Bhava, is a functional malefic planet. In fact, it's the most malefic planet. And because Moon is a fast-moving planet, every 30 days it goes through the zodiac. So this brings frequent but lightweight, short-lived problems. Usually losses, expenses, depression, isolation, separations. So this makes a person touchy and sensitive over time. We cannot strengthen Moon because it rules the 12th house. For Leo rising signs, we recommend that the person helps their mother or mother-in-law, grandmother or aunt or elderly women on Mondays. And they can go to YouTube on Mondays and listen to the 108 names of Shiva. We want to honor the planets that cause adverse effects. Otherwise, they can cause trouble for us. Sage Parashara in the Brihat Parashara, Hora Shastra. Hora means hour, Shastra means knowledge. Horoscope means hour in the observed. One who observes the hour of birth reads the chart. But Sage Parashara says to honor those graha, those planets that are cause of adverse effects at any time. Because Brahma has blessed the planets with the boon, with the instruction, do good to those who honor you. And he goes on to say that the entire creation and destruction of the universe is all under the authority and administration of the Navagraha, the 9 planets. Therefore, they're most venerable. It's a beautiful piece of knowledge. When we honor the planets, they are not allowed to cause harm. So under systems approach, we highly recommend that people do the twofold planetary remedial measures for their horoscopes. In other words, strengthen your favorable planets, which, by the way, changes for each rising sign. For one rising sign, Shani, Saturn, will cause grief, denote grief. But for another rising sign, it will never cause harm. The same holds true for all 7 planets. Some are favorable for some rising signs and unfavorable for other rising signs. Actually, every planet can be unfavorable for 3 rising signs and favorable for 9, but it changes for each ascendant or rising sign. Until astrologers figure that one out, they're not giving accurate information. This is why people get upset with their astrologers, because only half of what they say comes true, the other half does not come true. This is why I love systems approach. The feedback on systems approach is wonderful for many, many years. So what we do for the planets that cause trouble, cause adverse effects, we honor them through Bhuta Yagya, Bhoota, and Deva Yagya, Deva. Yagya, Yagya, simply means charities and Vedic chants. If a person's not comfortable with Vedic chants, they can do morning prayers or whatever chants work for their own religion, their own tradition. I prefer the Vedic chants from India, the land of the Ved, because they are in Sanskrit. And we know that Sanskrit is the mother of all language. Vedic astrology is done in Sanskrit. Predates Chinese, Egyptian, and Western astrology. It's the source. Truth is that which lives longest, that which is eternal. Nobody should strengthen Rahu and Ketu, the north and south nodes of the moon. They do cause the eclipse of the sun and the moon every year since the beginning of time. So if they can bring darkness to the royal luminary sun and moon, they can bring darkness into our lives. So we do recommend Bhuta Yagya and Deva Yagya for those planets. In my opinion, this is a very dangerous situation for Donald Trump. Always has been, always will be. I think he's lived his whole life on thin ice. Yes, he's had a very powerful Mars in the first house, but Mars actually becomes weak because planets are codependent on the strength of their dispositor, their landlord, if they are in a Mul Trikona sign. The Mul Trikona signs are 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, and 11. Aries for Mars, Cancer for Moon, Leo for the Sun, Virgo for the Mercury, Libra for the Venus, Sagittarius for the Jupiter, Aquarius for the Saturn. People are actually working out things in their life where those Mul Trikona signs fall in their horoscope. So, for example, Donald Trump has always worked out things relative to his father, relative to losses and expenses, relative to self, relative to wealth, status, and family life, relative to self-initiatives, relative to children, relative to marriage, partnerships. That's where people work out things according to the position of their Mul Trikona signs. But in my opinion, this is very serious, that Sun and Moon are both afflicted by Rahu and Ketu. And Moon is the most malefic planet, and its 7th aspect is exactly on the Sun, within 1 degree of the Sun. 1.5 degrees, but it's still there. Very powerful. So I think his heart and his soul are eclipsed, darkness. I also think that the fifth aspect of Rahu on Jupiter is not ideal. Jupiter's children. Jupiter's liver, gallbladder, and hips as well. Rahu's desires, Jupiter's education and children. So he desires education and children. But I think this can cause an eclipse. This can cause trouble. I'm glad that Jupiter's not at 27, 26, or 25 degrees. Then it would be a more serious issue. 27 degrees. Rahu can cause an increase. So maybe it just increases the number of children. So he has 3 children. But it's still not ideal. So if this Leo chart belonged to one of my clients, I would have recommended a long time ago a number of remedies for the chart. My favorite remedy for any chart and every chart is still the mystical pendant, the Kavach, K-A-V-A-C-H. This is a silver yantra. These are handmade in India, engraved with the mystical numbers that represent a person's favorable planets, therefore representing the favorable gemstones. So one mystical pendant for Donald Trump would have represented a ruby, an emerald, a blue sapphire, a diamond, a yellow sapphire, and a red coral. He can safely wear 6 gemstones. Some astrologers and gemstone dealers think you cannot wear, for example, a ruby with a diamond. Well, I'm sorry, they don't understand that it's okay if planets are favorable to strengthen them. We especially want to strengthen the weak, afflicted, debilitated, or badly placed planets. But we cannot strengthen the planets that cause adverse effects. We do Bhuta Yagya, Deva Yagya. Okay, this was just a little refresher on his chart. Now let's go to the next video and talk about these elections.